my darlings. Welcome to another episode of After Dark Fairy Tales. I'm back with True Scary Stories, Volume 2. I believe I left off with story number 8, and that was, title of that one was called, And Another Haunted Tea Room. So story number 9 is titled, Abandoned Amusement Park. So, you ready to find out what that story is about? Well, here we go. I used to go explore abandoned places with my friends too. The weirdest experience was at this abandoned amusement park we went to. The last time we had been there, a skeleton of a cat had fallen from a ceiling tile inside of one of the buildings, and it freaked one of my friends out. But I wasn't there, so I don't know much about that incident. But this park has a long walk to get to the entrance, and the gate has been bent just enough that you can step through it at the right angle. So we walk probably a mile across a field to get to this gate and step inside. The first building is some sort of old storefront type of thing. We walked up to it, and one of my friends notices a light coming from inside, and we all fall silent as he steps forward to peek in. He looks back wide-eyed, and naturally, the urban exploring rest of us go over to the doorway and check what he saw. The whole wall opposite from us was on fire. It looked like it had purposely been lit on fire like no less than 10 minutes before we got there, and we straight sprinted back to our cars after that. Freaky shit. Wow. That was short, but kind of weird. But on to story number 10, and this one is titled, No One Was Home. A few years ago, I was trying to get hold of my parents for something. Can't remember what. Neither of them answered their cell phone, so I called their home phone. The line picked up, and it sounded like someone was talking, but it was very distorted. After about 10 seconds, the line disconnected. That was at 9 p.m. My parents called me back around 10:30. They had been out at a movie, which had started at 8:30. They live alone. Ooh. What did y'all think about that one? Creepy? Okay. And story number 10. Now this one is titled, Stranger's Gifts. So this is going on as we speak, but let's take you back a couple of months to when this all started. One nice warm day, end of August, early September, I go outside and find this little ball of fur, feathers, hair, and a dangling earring hooked in on my porch. Weird, I thought. I brought it up to my husband and said that there was some weird juju shit on our porch and it freaked me out. I was not touching it, but it needed to go. He suggested that it was a nice gift from the tomcat next door, or something that our dog dragged home. My dog has never done that before, but hey, a way more logical reason than someone leaving weird juju shit on our porch. Cool. Then last week, this fully intact lower mandible bone of a white-tailed deer shows up on our porch in the exact same place where the hair feather fur ball was placed. Again, I asked my husband about it, and he says that the dog must have brought it with him. Again, something that he's never done, but logical. I still wasn't going to touch it. The weird fur feather earring ball was still fresh in my mind, and if someone was leaving weird shit on the porch, I wasn't going to touch it. Thanks for taking that danger on, hun. It stayed on the porch for a while. Yesterday, I was studying, facing my front door. Around lunchtime, my dog starts freaking out, and I look up, and there's this older, disheveled-looking lady, I think, on our porch, who I had never seen before, walking toward our front door. She leaves something on the bench we have out there and turns around and walks away. After a beat, I get up to grab whatever pamphlet she left on our porch. Except she didn't leave a pamphlet. She came onto our porch, took the lower mandible bone and moved it onto the bench, right in the middle of two posts of the porch fence, right in line with a bright ray of sunshine. So now, I'm pretty convinced that there is someone leaving weird shit on our porch, and here's hoping we're not cursed. I think it's time to move. What do you think? I don't think I want her as a neighbor. But, on to the next story. I believe this is story number 10. And the title of this one is called Abducted in Plain Sight. My family and I went to Dubai in 2004. I was 7, and we were in the hotel pool when we see two big men suddenly come in and steal this family's little girl, who looked around the same age as me, and sped off into a car. There's nothing anyone could have done because we were all in the pool, and the daughter's mother started crying hysterically. We ended up having to write a witness report for the police. I still wonder if they got their little girl back. Short and tragic. I sure hope they got the baby back. But, on to story number 11. And this one is titled, A Voice Saved My Life. I was in a major car accident over a decade ago. My car was hit by another car in such a way where I lost control of the car. The car somehow went on a full circle on the highway. I T-boned a Jersey wall, completely destroying it and cracking the next two in line, and I bounced off that onto an off-ramp with my side of the car facing traffic. I'm about to exhale when I hear, "Hey kid, when I start counting, you have 8 seconds to move your car or you're going to be hit by an 18-wheeler. Do you understand? 8, 7, 6. Voice didn't have to tell me twice. I threw my car into drive and got onto the shoulder. At 1, an 18-wheeler drove by the spot my car was parked on. I should have died, according to the cops surveying the crash site later, but I walked away with a few bruises, and I needed a root canal a few days later. I probably imagined the voice, but damn, I'm believing it was something otherworldly. Ghosts saved their life. Well, story number 11. And this one is titled Bell Bottom Ghost. I've posted about this before, but when I was about 9 years old, 1995, in the middle of a bright summer day, I went to the refrigerator to get a popsicle. Suddenly, a roughly teenage-looking guy with long brown hair like this, wearing a beige turtleneck and red plaid bell-bottoms, but with dark green and black lines, turned around the corner into the hallway to my left, then vanished from toe to head as I looked at him. Told no one about this for years until after my mother mentioned meeting the now grown kids who lived in the house before us, who asked her if she'd seen the bell-bottom ghost. Creepy. And now, story number 12, and this one is simply titled, A Friend. Walking home forest at night with a friend at like 2 a.m. Don't even ask. We were about 14. We were having a good time, talking, etc. When out of nowhere, our friend shows up and starts talking to us. Our friend started chatting with us, and I felt a really strong sense of euphoria. This friend knew both of our names and things that he shouldn't have liked exact details of inside my room, and things that happened to me before I moved into the country. Then he was just gone, and we both collapsed, physically exhausted. It was then that we realized that we had never met this friend, and we were still 10 kilometers from town and another 2 kilometers from our campsite. We just laid there for so long, recovering. I never actually properly saw my, quote, friend. I kind of just knew he was with us, and I can't recall his voice either. All I remember is him asking to take us to his house. Just turn left. My real friend, luckily, had the sense to not let me go. That left turn led to this unfenced lookout with like a 5-meter drop to rocks. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had listened. Scary shit. That is scary. Wow. Thank God they had that real friend with them, huh? And this is story number 13. And the title of this one is called Lost Key. My friend asked me if I would go to her house after work and feed her dog, as she would not be home until 3 a.m. or so. She worked in a bar. I arrived at her house at 8:30 p.m. and got the key she had left under the mat to unlock the door. Once I unlocked the door, I turned off the alarm and put the key in a white bowl by the door. I am 100% sure I put the key in the bowl. I fed the dog and played with him for a little while, then went to lock up the house again and leave, but the key was gone. Just then, the dog started furiously barking and ran full speed out of the kitchen and up the stairs. He just sat there, growling at nothing. The feeling that came over me at that time was so strange. I randomly burst out crying and couldn't stop. Eventually, I calmed down, put the dog back into the kitchen, and looked for the key. It was literally nowhere. I ended up finding another key that worked, so I just locked the house and left. I told my friend, and she looked daily for about a week. Then one day, the key was back in the white bowl. That's weird. What took that key? I don't want to know. Never mind. And now, I believe this is story 13? Is it 14? Oh, I might have screwed up my count. Forgive me, guys. But the title of this story is called A Shadow Person. When I was in elementary school, I shared a queen-size bed with my older sister and our family dog. A mutt that looked like a short-haired lassie would sleep at the foot of our bed every night. When I was about 6 years old, I woke up one night around midnight and saw a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. The figure was entirely in black without any eyes or a face. I tried to wake my sister up, but she rolled over to go back to sleep. My sister must have accidentally kicked the dog because the dog woke up and raised her head and started growling at the figure at the foot of the bed. The growling then woke my sister up, and she saw the figure and started screaming. When my parents came into the room and turned the light on, nothing was there. Wow. Now that is damn creepy. I don't want to see no shadow people at the foot of my bed. They're not allowed. But anyway, next story, and the title of this one is called Speaking in Tongues. My wife has told me that very occasionally I talk in my sleep in some other language. She has no idea what I'm saying, but the language sounds a little bit familiar to her. When smartphones became a thing, she recorded me one time. I listened to it the next day, and at first I thought it was Italian since some of the sounds and cadences were similar. I don't know Italian, so that seemed really odd. I shared it with a colleague who grew up with Italian. Turns out I was speaking Latin, which he had learned as a student. I studied a bit of Latin as a kid. It's long gone now, although I can recognize some words and know some Latin conjugations. He said that as far as he could tell, it was pretty grammatically correct, and that I was talking about a mountain and a lake. Weird as hell. Tell me about it. If I want to speak a language while I'm sleeping, I think I would want it to be French. I don't know, I always want to learn how to speak French. But anyway, let me shut up. On to the next one. And this one is titled Loose Screw. About a year before my son was born, my boyfriend's father died. I had never met my BF's father, but heard stories of his twisted sense of humor and how he liked to screw with people. My boyfriend was not particularly close with his dad. We lived in NC, and his dad had taken off to Seattle when my BF was young. I don't think BF really grieved until our son was born, and he realized that his dad would never meet him. That hit him hard. Over the first month of caring for our newborn, we started to notice screws that had fallen out of household items. Kitchen chairs, towel rack, screen door, outlet cover, the most random shit. More than a dozen loose screws in the span of a week. Kinda weird. But we were sleep-deprived parents and didn't really have the mental stamina to waste trying to figure it out. One day, we're chilling in the living room and a screw falls out of the light fixture and lands in my BF's lap. He starts laughing hysterically, so hard he can't breathe. When he finally calms down enough to tell me what set him off, he holds up the screw and says, "I finally get it. My dad is screwing with me." Never had a loose screw since. Well, I'm glad he thought that was funny. I most certainly wouldn't be laughing. Meh, but anyway. The next story, and this one is called Footsteps. So as a youngster me and my brother were staying up late playing video games since we didn't have school the next morning. It was maybe 3 a.m. when we decided to shut it down and get in bed. My room is at the end of the hall, while my brother's was right next to mine. After we shut it off and put the controllers away, we both hear these heavy, slow footsteps coming from the kitchen. The kitchen was the only room without carpet, so they sounded pretty ominous. We gave each other a look, and I called out down the hall, "Dad?" Well then, the footsteps sounds trailed back towards our laundry room and stopped. That's also where our basement door is. Well, we knew something wasn't right, so we both start yelling for our mom and dad, and they come rushing to us all sleepy and confused, and we frantically explain what we heard. My dad goes and checks it out and tells us that all the doors are still locked, closed, and there wasn't anything showing anyone was in the house. Plausible explanation could be that it was just a murderer that broke in and scurried off when we called out, but I always wondered, what if it was a murder ghost instead? My God, that is creepy, and that's too much for a child to have to deal with after playing video games. But anyway, next story is called Night Visitor. My dad told me the story of when he was just out of college and visited friends in California. This was just prior to the Night Stalker killings in the 80s. My mom stayed home because she was not feeling well. Actually, she was pregnant with me. My dad was sleeping on his friend's couch and heard someone walking around. He called out his friend's name, then his roommates, and the walking stopped. He heard a window close after that, and then nothing. It's very possible someone had climbed in the back window, was in the house, and my 6'4", 240-pound college football player of a dad scared him off by calling out. It's kind of a family dark joke that my dad scared Richard Ramirez away. But my mom hates thinking about it because the dates and location works out that it very well could have been in his early years trying it out before he started killing. Wow. Well. What do my darlings think about these creepy short stories? I know these stories are short as hell, but they're supposed to be true accounts. And this was volume 2. So, later on, I'll be back with volume 3. So, Let me know what you thought about these in the comments. And I'll be back again with Volume 3 with even more short, scary, true tales. I hope you enjoy Volume 2. And I want to thank you for listening and relaxing and enjoying the stories, my narration. And soon I'll share the link of the author, or should I say the journalist who shared these stories with me or gave me the opportunity to narrate these stories. And I'll post a link where you can check them out, probably in the next video. But I'll be back again with Volume 3. And I hope you enjoyed Volume 2 and enjoyed these creepy tales. And until then, good night, my darling.